The waitress saw him lift the fork to his mouth. Her voice exploded across the silent restaurant. "Don't eat that." His bodyguards grabbed her instantly, demanding answers. What the Mafia boss didn't know, this wasn't the first time she'd saved him. And it wouldn't be the last. The crystal chandelier above table 7 cast dancing shadows across Salvatore's face as he cut into his steak. He preferred this corner booth at Bellinate because it gave him a perfect view of both entrances. 20 years in this business had taught him that the man who controls the room lives longest. "Mr. Russo, your usual dessert will arrive shortly," the manager said, bowing slightly before retreating. Salvatore didn't acknowledge him. His mind was elsewhere, calculating numbers from the docks, considering the senator who needed convincing, thinking about Maria and whether her perfume smelled different lately. These thoughts occupied the spaces between bites, the quiet moments that other men filled with conversation. His 2 bodyguards stood 15 feet away, close enough to move, far enough to give the illusion of privacy. Tony, the older one with the scar, watched the main entrance. Marco, young and eager to prove himself, covered the kitchen door. The restaurant hummed with the usual Wednesday night crowd. Couples celebrating anniversaries. Business deals disguised as dinner. Everyone pretending they didn't know exactly who sat in the corner booth. A waitress emerged from the kitchen carrying a small plate. She was new, Salvatore noticed. He made it his business to notice everything. Dark hair pulled back, nervous hands, maybe 25 years old. She walked with her head down, the way people do when they're trying to be invisible. The tiramisu looked perfect. Layers of cream and coffee-soaked cake, dusted with cocoa powder. His favorite. Maria knew that. She'd called ahead to make sure they prepared it exactly right. The waitress set the plate down without meeting his eyes. Her hand trembled slightly. "Thank you," Salvatore said, surprised by his own politeness. She nodded and turned to leave, but her feet stopped moving. She stood there, frozen, staring at the dessert like it was a loaded gun. Salvatore picked up his fork. The silver felt cool and heavy in his hand. He could already taste the sweetness, the bitter coffee cutting through the cream. "Don't eat that." The words exploded from her mouth like a gunshot. Everything stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses paused halfway to lips. The piano player's hands lifted from the keys. Salvatore's fork hung in the air, an inch from the tiramisu. Tony and Marco moved like sharks smelling blood. They had the waitress by both arms before she could draw another breath. Her eyes went wide with terror as they lifted her off her feet. "What did you say?" Salvatore's voice was soft, which somehow made it more dangerous. "I said don't eat it. Please don't eat it." The words tumbled out fast, desperate. The manager appeared, his face red with panic. "Mr. Russo, I'm so sorry. She's new. I'll have her fired immediately. Please let me." Salvatore raised one finger. The manager's mouth snapped shut. "Everyone out," Salvatore said quietly. For a moment, nobody moved. Now, the restaurant emptied like water from a broken dam. Customers grabbed coats and purses, leaving half-eaten meals and full glasses of wine. The manager herded them toward the exits, apologizing profusely to no one in particular. Within 2 minutes, the restaurant was silent except for the soft jazz still playing from hidden speakers. Salvatore stood slowly. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark hair. His suit cost more than most people made in a month. He walked around the table until he stood directly in front of the waitress. Tony and Marco held her tight. She was shaking, but her eyes never left Salvatore's face. "You know who I am?" he asked. She nodded, unable to speak. "Then you know what happens to people who disrespect me." "I'm not trying to disrespect you," she whispered. "I'm trying to save your life." The words hung in the air like smoke. Salvatore studied her face. Fear, yes, but something else too. Something that looked almost like grief. "Explain. Quickly." "The dessert. It's poisoned. I saw her put something in it. In the kitchen." She didn't know I was watching. Her? Who is her? The waitress swallowed hard. The woman who called ahead. The one with the red dress and the diamond bracelet. She came through the kitchen entrance. Said she wanted to make sure your dessert was perfect. I was getting plates from the storage room, and I saw her through the shelving. She took something from her purse. A small bottle. She poured it into the tiramisu while the chef was turned around. Salvatore's expression didn't change, but something cold settled in his chest. You're describing Maria, he said flatly. The waitress nodded. Maria. His mistress for 3 years. The woman who shared his bed, who whispered secrets in the dark, who knew things about him that could destroy empires. Why would she do that? The question was rhetorical, but the waitress answered anyway. I don't know. But I couldn't just watch you eat it. I couldn't. Salvatore looked at the tiramisu. It sat there innocent and beautiful, exactly the way he liked it. Tony, he said without looking away from the dessert. Call Dr. Castellano. Tell him to bring his testing kit. Tell him I need him here in 10 minutes, or I'll be very disappointed. Tony released the waitress and pulled out his phone. Marco, find Maria. Bring her here. Be polite about it. Marco hesitated. Boss, are you sure? Did I stutter? No, boss. Marco disappeared through the back door. Salvatore pulled out a chair and gestured to the waitress. Sit. She sat, still trembling. What's your name? Elena. Elena Moretti. How long have you worked here, Elena? 2 weeks. You like your job? She nodded. Then you just risked it and possibly your life, to warn a man you don't know about something you only think you saw. He leaned forward. Why? Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. Because it was the right thing to do. Because nobody deserves to die like that. Not even you. Salvatore almost smiled. Almost. The front door opened and Dr. Castellano rushed in, carrying a black leather bag. He was 60, gray-haired, and had been keeping Mafia secrets for 30 years. Salvatore, what's the emergency? Salvatore pointed at the tiramisu. Test it. Tell me what's in it. The doctor didn't ask questions. He pulled out vials and swabs, scraping small samples, adding drops of clear liquid, watching for color changes. The process took 5 minutes that felt like hours. Finally, Dr. Castellano looked up, his face grave. Aconitine, he said. Extracted from wolfsbane. A very sophisticated poison. Slow-acting. You would have felt fine for maybe an hour, 2 at most. Then the numbness would start. Heart palpitations. Difficulty breathing. By the time you reached a hospital, it would be too late. Death would look like a heart attack. The room went very quiet. Salvatore stared at the tiramisu for a long moment. Then he pushed the plate away, the scrape of porcelain against wood loud in the silence. He looked at Elena. Really looked at her. This girl who had nothing, who was nobody, who had just saved his life. Thank you, he said softly. Before Elena could respond, the back door opened. Marco returned, and he wasn't alone. Maria walked in wearing her red dress and diamond bracelet, beautiful and confident as always. She smiled when she saw Salvatore, the smile that had once made his heart beat faster. Darling, Marco said you needed to see me urgently. Is everything all right? Her eyes flicked to Elena, then to the untouched tiramisu, and for just a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. Fear. Salvatore saw it. He saw everything now. Maria, he said, his voice like winter. We need to talk. Maria's smile never wavered, but her fingers tightened around her Chanel purse. Of course, darling. Though I'm confused why you needed Marco to collect me like some common criminal. Sit down, Salvatore said. It wasn't a request. Maria's heels clicked against the marble floor as she walked to the table. She chose the chair farthest from Elena, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. What's this about? And why is the staff still here? Dr. Castellano, Salvatore said, ignoring her question. Tell Maria what you found. The doctor cleared his throat uncomfortably. He'd patched up bullet wounds and kept secrets that could topple governments, but family drama made him nervous. The tiramisu contains aconitine, a lethal dose. Maria's face showed perfect confusion. I don't understand. Someone poisoned Salvatore's dessert.
Someone did, Salvatore agreed.
His eyes never left her face. This waitress, Elena, says she saw you in the kitchen. Says she watched you pour something into my dessert from a small bottle. Maria's laugh was musical, disbelieving. That's ridiculous. Salvatore, you can't possibly believe this girl. Look at her. She's terrified, probably trying to get attention or… Show me your purse. The laughter died. Salvatore, this is insulting. We've been together 3 years, and you're going to believe some waitress over me?
Your purse, Maria. Now.
For a long moment, Maria didn't move. Then slowly, deliberately, she opened her purse and turned it upside down on the table. Lipstick, compact mirror, car keys, wallet, phone, and breath mints scattered across the white tablecloth. No bottle. Salvatore's jaw tightened. He looked at Elena, whose face had gone pale. I saw it, Elena whispered. I swear I saw it. Of course you didn't see it, Maria said, her voice turning sharp. Because it doesn't exist. This girl is lying, Salvatore. Can't you see? She probably did it herself, and now she's trying to frame me. Why would I poison him and then stop him from eating it? Elena's voice rose with desperation. That makes no sense. Maybe you got cold feet. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe you wanted to play hero and get close to him. Maria leaned forward, her eyes cold. I've seen girls like you before. Obsessed with powerful men. Willing to do anything for attention. Elena stood up, her chair scraping loudly. I'm not lying. I saw you. You were wearing that red dress, that bracelet. You came through the back in trance, and… Enough, Salvatore said quietly. Everyone fell silent. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city lights. His reflection in the glass showed nothing, a mask of calm that betrayed none of the calculations running through his mind.
Tony, he said.
Search the kitchen. Every inch. Look for any bottles, any containers that don't belong. Tony disappeared through the swinging doors. The silence that followed was suffocating. Maria examined her nails. Elena twisted her hands in her lap. Dr. Castellano packed his equipment with unnecessary care, wanting to be anywhere else. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, Tony returned, shaking his head. Nothing, boss. Kitchen's clean. Maria stood gracefully. Are we finished with this circus? I'd like to go home. Not yet, Salvatore said. He turned from the window. Elena, you're absolutely certain about what you saw. Yes, she said, her voice breaking. I know what I saw. I know I'm nobody, just a waitress, but I'm not crazy and I'm not lying. Salvatore studied her face, then Maria's. One of them was telling the truth. One of them wanted him dead. Dr. Castellano, he said slowly. How long does aconitine take to kill someone? If ingested, symptoms begin within 30 minutes to 2 hours. Death typically occurs within 2 to 6 hours. And if someone handled it, poured it from a bottle, the doctor frowned. It can be absorbed through skin, but it would need to be concentrated. They'd likely show symptoms within hours. Numbness, tingling in the fingers. Salvatore's eyes locked on Maria's hands. Maria, darling, he said softly. How do your hands feel? Her eyes widened, just slightly.
Fine.
They feel fine. Show me, Salvatore. This is absurd.
Show.
Me. Maria held out her hands. They were steady, perfectly manicured, with that diamond bracelet catching the light. But Salvatore walked closer, taking her right hand in his. His thumb brushed across her palm, and Maria flinched. Does that hurt? He asked quietly. No, it tickles. He pressed harder. Maria's face remained composed, but sweat beaded at her hairline. You can't feel it, can you? Salvatore said. Your fingers are numb. Maria pulled her hand back. You're being paranoid. I'm leaving. She made it 3 steps before her legs buckled. Tony caught her before she hit the floor. Maria gasped, her hand clutching her chest. I can't, my heart. Dr. Castellano moved fast, checking her pulse, her pupils. She's been exposed. Not a lethal dose, but enough. She must have spilled some on her hands and absorbed it through her skin. Maria looked up at Salvatore, and for the first time, there was no pretense. Just rage and something else. Something broken. 3 years, she gasped. 3 years I gave you. And for what? So you could parade me around like jewelry while you built your empire? So I could be your secret while your wife gets everything. Salvatore's face remained stone. I never married, but you are going to. Her voice cracked. I heard you on the phone last week, talking about that politician's daughter. About alliances. About futures that didn't include me. The truth hung between them like smoke. Elena stood frozen, watching a love affair die in real time. Get her to a hospital, Salvatore said flatly. Make sure she lives. I want her alive for what comes next. As Tony carried Maria toward the door, she looked back at Salvatore one last time. I loved you, she whispered.
No, he said.
You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. The door closed behind them. Salvatore stood alone with Elena and the untouched tiramisu that would have killed him. You saved my life, he said quietly. Elena nodded, unable to speak. That means you're my responsibility now, whether you want to be or not. And Elena realized, with a sinking feeling in her stomach, that being saved might be more dangerous than she'd ever imagined. The hospital room was private, expensive, and guarded. Maria lay in the bed, her red dress replaced by a plain gown, her diamond bracelet locked in a safe somewhere. The poison had been flushed from her system, but the damage to her heart would take weeks to heal. If Salvatore let her live that long. He arrived at midnight alone. The guards outside straightened when they saw him, but didn't follow. Some conversations needed no witnesses. Maria's eyes opened when the door closed. She'd been awake, waiting. Come to finish the job? Her voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual sweetness. Salvatore pulled a chair to her bedside and sat. In the harsh hospital light, he looked older, tired. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Then what do you want? A confession? An apology? She laughed bitterly. I tried to kill you, Salvatore. What more is there to say? The truth, he leaned forward. All of it. No more games. Maria turned her head away, staring at the dark window. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Explain. 6 months ago, I found the ring. Her voice was barely a whisper. In your office, hidden in the bottom drawer. A diamond ring, Salvatore. Not for me. Never for me. He said nothing, his face unreadable. I asked around.
Carefully.
Found out about Senator Ricci's daughter. 23, educated, connected. The perfect wife for a man building a legitimate empire. Maria's hands clenched the sheets. I was just the mistress. The secret. The woman you'd throw away when you needed something better. So you decided to poison me. No. She turned back to him, eyes blazing. I decided to leave. I packed my bags, wrote you a letter, bought a plane ticket to Milan. I was going to disappear. Then what changed? Maria's face crumpled. I went to say goodbye. One last time. I drove to the restaurant, came through the back entrance so no one would see. I was going to watch you from the kitchen, memorize your face, and leave. But you didn't leave. I saw the tiramisu being made. Your favorite. And I just broke. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I had the bottle in my purse. Something I'd bought weeks ago, when the hurt was worst. I never thought I'd actually use it. But standing there, watching them make your dessert, all I could think was, if I can't have you, no one will. Salvatore's jaw tightened. So you poisoned it. Yes, the word came out like a confession in church. But the moment I did it, I regretted it. I stood there, frozen, watching the chef plate it. I wanted to knock it to the floor, throw it away, but I couldn't move, couldn't think. Yet you let them serve it to me. I panicked. I ran. Got in my car, drove home, tried to convince myself you wouldn't eat it, that someone would notice, that. She stopped, breathing hard. Then Marco came to get me, and I knew that girl had seen something.
So I lied.
I lied because I was scared and ashamed, and I didn't know what else to do. The machines beside her bed beeped steadily, counting heartbeats, measuring a life that hung in balance. Do you love me? Salvatore asked suddenly. Maria laughed, a broken sound. I hate that I do. I hate that even now, after everything, I still want you to tell me it was all a mistake. That there's no other woman. That I matter. You mattered, he said quietly. But not in the way you needed. I know more tears. I've always known. But knowing and accepting are different things. Salvatore stood, buttoning his jacket. The ring wasn't for Senator Ricci's daughter. Maria looked up confused. It was for you. I was waiting for the right moment. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. But you can't build a life with someone who tries to kill you the moment things get hard. Love isn't supposed to be poison, Maria. It's supposed to be the antidote. Her sob followed him into the hallway. Outside, Tony waited with the car. Where to, boss? Elena Moretti's apartment, Salvatore said. We need to talk about her future. The drive took 20 minutes through empty streets. Elena lived in a modest building in a working-class neighborhood, the kind of place where people minded their business and kept their doors locked. Salvatore climbed the narrow stairs to the third floor. Apartment 3B. He knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a crack, chains still attached. Elena's eyes widened when she saw him. Mr. Russo, what are you? It's 1 a.m. I know. Let me in. Please. She hesitated, then unhooked the chain. The apartment was small but clean, a kitchenette, a worn sofa, books stacked on every surface. A student's life, or someone trying to build one. I'm sorry for the intrusion, Salvatore said, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked in his expensive suit surrounded by her modest belongings. Did something happen? Is Maria?
She's alive.
And she confessed. He turned to face her. She admitted everything. Said she saw you in the kitchen, but claimed you didn't see her clearly. That you might have been mistaken about the details.
Elena's face pallid.
She's still lying. I know. That's why I'm here. Salvatore moved closer. You were right about everything. You saved my life. But now you're in danger. What do you mean? Maria has friends. People loyal to her, not to me. They'll know you're the reason she's in custody. They'll come for you. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. So what do I do? You disappear. I'll arrange everything. New identity, money. A fresh start somewhere far from here. It was the logical solution. The safe solution. Or? Elena asked quietly. Salvatore looked at her, really looked at her. This girl who'd risked everything for a stranger, who'd shown more courage in one moment than most people showed in a lifetime.
Or you stay.
Under my protection.
In my world, he paused.
But if you choose that, there's no going back. You'll see things, know things. You'll be marked as mine, and everyone who hates me will hate you too. Elena walked to her window, looking out at the sleeping city. Why are you giving me a choice? Because, unlike Maria, I don't want to own you. I want you to choose. She turned back to him, and in her eyes, he saw something that made his carefully controlled heart skip. She'd already made her decision. I'll stay, Elena said. But not because I'm afraid. And not because you're powerful. Then why? She smiled, sad and knowing. Because someone has to save you from yourself, Mr. Russo. And apparently that someone is me. For the first time in years, Salvatore didn't know what to say. Elena's first week under Salvatore's protection felt like living in a dream where everything was beautiful and nothing was safe. She still worked at Bellinate, but now Marco stood outside during her shifts. A driver took her home. Her landlord received a generous payment to upgrade her locks and install cameras. On the surface, life continued. Underneath, everything had changed. The other waitresses whispered. Customers stared. Everyone knew she was connected to Salvatore Russo now, but no one dared ask how or why. Table 6 wants more wine. Rosa, the head waitress, said coldly. She'd worked at Bella Notte for 10 years and didn't appreciate a newcomer getting special treatment. Elena grabbed the bottle and walked to the table, feeling eyes follow her across the room. She smiled, poured, collected the empty glasses. Normal work. Normal life. Except the man at table 6 had a tattoo on his wrist. 3 interlinked daggers. Maria's family symbol. Elena's hand trembled as she set down the wine. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You're Elena, right? The girl who saved Mr. Russo? I just did my job, she said carefully. Of course, he leaned back, studying her. Must be scary, though. Getting involved in things you don't understand. People get hurt that way. It wasn't a question. It was a warning. Elena excused herself and walked quickly to the back, her heart hammering. She found Marco by the service entrance, scrolling through his phone. There's a man inside, she whispered. Table 6. He has Maria's family tattoo. Marco's expression hardened. He spoke into his phone, quick and quiet. Within minutes, Tony arrived through the front entrance. Your shift is over, Marco told Elena. We're taking you home, but I have 3 more hours.
Now.
They moved through the kitchen to avoid the dining room. Elena grabbed her coat and purse, her mind racing. Behind her, she heard raised voices, the crash of a chair falling. Go, go. Marco pushed her toward the exit. They made it to the car. Marco drove while Tony watched through the rear window. The city lights blurred past, familiar streets suddenly feeling foreign and dangerous. Are they following us? Elena asked. Not yet, Tony said. But they know where you live. So, where are we going? Boss's orders. You're staying at the villa tonight. Elena's stomach dropped. Salvatore's villa was legendary, a fortress on the hill where he conducted business, where people went and sometimes didn't come back. I can't just leave my apartment. You can and you will, Marco said flatly. They made a move tonight, testing the waters. Next time won't be a warning. The villa sat behind high walls and iron gates, surrounded by gardens that looked beautiful and deadly. Security cameras tracked their approach. Armed guards nodded as Marco drove through. Inside, the villa was all marble and dark wood, expensive art on the walls. A place designed to intimidate. Salvatore met them in the foyer, still dressed from whatever business had occupied his evening. His eyes found Elena immediately. What happened? Marco explained while Elena stood there, feeling small and out of place in her waitress uniform. I told you this would happen, Salvatore said quietly when Marco finished. Maria's cousins aren't going to let this go. So what do we do? Elena asked, finding her voice. You stay here, where I can protect you. For how long? As long as it takes. Elena looked around the villa, at the luxury that felt like a prison. I can't live like this. I have a job, a life. You had a life, Salvatore interrupted. The moment you shouted in that restaurant, you gave it up. Whether you understood that or not. The words stung because they were true. I'll have Rosa bring your things, he continued. You'll have your own room, your own space. But you don't leave without security. You don't go anywhere alone. Understood? Elena wanted to argue, to fight, to reclaim some control. But the memory of that man's smile, the cold promise in his eyes, stopped her. Understood, she whispered. Salvatore's expression softened slightly. I know this isn't what you wanted. What I wanted was to stop someone from being murdered, her voice cracked. I didn't think about what came after. No one ever does. A housekeeper appeared, an older woman with kind eyes, and led Elena upstairs. The guest room was bigger than her entire apartment, with a bathroom that had actual marble counters and a window overlooking the garden. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, still in her uniform, and finally let herself cry. She'd saved a man's life and lost her own in the process. Downstairs, Salvatore poured himself a drink and stood by the window. Tony and Marco waited for instructions. "Find out who was at table 6, Salvatore said. "Name, family connections, everything." "And then?"
Tony asked.
"Then we send a message." A clear 1 inch, he turned from the window. "No one touches what's mine." "Boss," Marco said carefully. "Is she yours? Because the way I see it, she's just a girl who got caught in the crossfire." Salvatore's jaw tightened. She stopped being just a girl the moment she chose to stay. Now she's my responsibility. And if Maria's family doesn't care about responsibility, then they'll learn what happens when they threaten me. But even as he said it, Salvatore felt something unfamiliar gnaw at him. Worry. Not for himself, but for the girl upstairs who'd saved him without asking for anything in return. Tony and Marco left to gather information. Salvatore remained by the window, nursing his drink, wondering when exactly his carefully controlled world had started slipping through his fingers. Upstairs, Elena finally changed out of her uniform. She found a robe in the closet and sat by the window, watching the city lights in the distance. Her apartment was out there somewhere. Her books, her life, her freedom. And here she was, in a beautiful cage, protected by a man who was equal parts savior and captor. She touched the glass, cold against her fingertips, and wondered if Maria had felt this way once, trapped by luxury, bound by choices that seemed right at the time. A soft knock made her turn. Salvatore stood in the doorway, 2 cups of tea in his hands. "Thought you might need this." Elena accepted the cup, surprised by the gesture. "Thank you."
He didn't leave.
Instead, he sat in the chair by the door, keeping distance between them. "I meant what I said earlier," Elena told him. "I don't regret saving you, even though it brought you here." Even though she sipped the tea. "But I need you to understand something, Mr. Russo." "Salvatore," he corrected gently. Salvatore, the name felt strange on her tongue. "I may be in your house, under your protection, but I'm not your prisoner. And I'm not Maria." He studied her face. "I know you're not."
Do you?
"Because it seems like everyone in your world is either owned or owing." "And which are you?" Elena met his eyes. "Neither. I'm the girl who saved your life because it was right. Not because I wanted something from you." Salvatore smiled, genuinely this time. "That's what makes you dangerous, Elena. You're the first person in years who doesn't want anything from me." "I want one thing," she said quietly. "What?" "I want to survive this. Whatever this is." He stood, setting down his cup. "Then we'll make sure you do." After he left, Elena lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the villas settle around her. Somewhere in the city, Maria's family was planning revenge. And Elena, who'd only wanted to do the right thing, was now at the center of a war she didn't understand. 3 days passed like a slow-motion dream. Elena wandered the villa like a ghost, reading books from Salvatore's library, eating meals alone in the dining room, watching the city from windows she couldn't open. Salvatore was rarely there. Business, Tony explained. Important meetings that couldn't wait. But on the 4th night, everything changed. Elena was in the library when Salvatore appeared in the doorway. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, shadows under his eyes. "Walk with me," he said. It wasn't a question, but it wasn't quite in order either. They walked through the garden, past fountains and rose bushes, until they reached a gazebo lit by candles. The city sprawled below them, a million lights pretending everything was ordinary. "I've been avoiding you," Salvatore said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "I noticed. It's not because I don't want to see you," he handed her a glass. "It's because I do. Too much." Elena's breath caught.
Salvatore.
"Let me finish." He sat on the stone bench, and after a moment, she joined him. "Maria accused me of many things. Most were true. I used people. I kept them close but never let them in. I built walls so high that even I forgot what was on the other side. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what kind of man you saved. He stared at his wine. I'm not good, Elena. I've done things that would make you run screaming. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on fear and blood. I know who you are. Do you? He looked at her then, really looked at her. Because I'm starting to think you see someone I'm not. Someone better than I am. Elena set down her glass. Her hands were shaking. I don't think you're a good man, Salvatore. But I don't think you're only a bad man either. What does that mean? It means I've watched you this week. The way you treat your staff with respect. The way you remembered that Rose's daughter was sick and sent flowers. The way you sit in your office late at night, reading letters from people asking for help, and you actually help them. She paused. You're not the monster you pretend to be. Salvatore laughed, a bitter sound. You've been here 4 days and you think you know me? No, Elena turned to face him fully. But I've been watching you for 6 months. The silence stretched between them like a canyon. What? Salvatore's voice was barely a whisper. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I didn't just start working at Bellinate 2 weeks ago. I've been there for 6 months. I lied when you asked.
Why?
Because I needed you to think I was nobody. Just a random waitress who happened to be in the right place. She wiped her eyes. But that's not true. I applied to that restaurant specifically because I knew you ate there every Wednesday. Salvatore stood abruptly, his wine spilling. You what? I needed to meet you.
To be near you.
Her voice broke. God, this sounds insane. Elena, what are you saying? She stood too, facing him in the candlelight. 2 years ago, you helped my brother. He was in trouble, owed money to the wrong people. They were going to kill him. You didn't know him, had no reason to help, but you did anyway. You paid his debt and gave him a job at your docks. Salvatore's mind raced, pulling up memories. Roberto Moretti. I remember. He was just a kid, made stupid mistakes. He was my baby brother. And you saved his life. Elena's tears fell freely now. He came home that night and told me about you. About how you could have let him die, but didn't. How you told him everyone deserves a second chance. So you got a job at my restaurant. I wanted to thank you. To tell you what you did meant everything to our family. But every time I saw you, I couldn't find the words. You were this powerful, untouchable man, and I was nobody. She laughed through her tears. So, I just kept watching you. Learning your habits. Which desserts you liked. How you took your coffee. I memorized everything about you like I was studying for the most important test of my life. Elena. And somewhere along the way, watching turned into something else. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I fell in love with you, Salvatore. Not because you're powerful. Not because of your money or your influence. But because I saw the man beneath all that. The one who gave my brother a second chance. The one who reads letters late at night and actually cares. Salvatore felt like the ground was shifting beneath him. You can't love me. You don't know me. I know you better than Maria ever did, Elena said fiercely. She loved what you could give her. I love who you are when no one's watching. And the poison? Stopping me from eating it. Was real. I really did see Maria in the kitchen. I really did save you because I couldn't stand the thought of you dying. She stepped closer. But I also can't lie to you anymore. You need to know the truth. I didn't save a stranger. I saved the man I've loved from a distance for 2 years. Salvatore reached out, his hand trembling as he touched her face. You should have let me eat it. You should have stayed away from me.
Why?
Because now I can't let you go. And that's more dangerous than any poison. Then don't let me go, Elena whispered. He pulled her close, their foreheads touching, the space between them electric and terrifying. If I kiss you right now, there's no going back. You understand that? You'll be mine, and everyone will know it. Every enemy I have will come for you. I've been yours since the moment you saved my brother, she said. I just didn't tell you until now. Salvatore kissed her then, soft and desperate, like a man drinking water after years in the desert. The candles flickered around them, casting shadows that danced like secrets finally spoken aloud. When they pulled apart, Elena was crying again, but smiling too. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you alive." He held her face in his hands. "But I promise you this. Anyone who tries to hurt you will have to go through me first. And I've never lost a fight that mattered." "What about Maria?" "Maria wanted me to belong to her." "You're asking me to belong to myself." He kissed her forehead. "That's the difference between possession and love." They stayed in the gazebo until the candles burned low, talking about everything and nothing, two people who'd been circling each other for years finally finding the center. But in the city below, in rooms filled with smoke and anger, Maria's family was planning their revenge. And love, no matter how genuine, wouldn't stop bullets. The attack came on a Tuesday morning, swift and calculated. Salvatore's shipment at the docks, 3 containers of imported goods worth $2 million, went up in flames. By the time the fire trucks arrived, there was nothing left but ash and twisted metal. Tony delivered the news while Salvatore was having breakfast with Elena. She saw his face change, saw the warmth drain away and the ice return. "I need to handle this," he said, already standing. "Let me come with you," Elena offered.
No.
"You stay here where it's safe." He kissed her forehead quickly, distracted. "Marco will be outside your door." Then he was gone, and Elena was alone again with her fear. At the docks, Salvatore surveyed the damage with cold fury. His men stood in a circle, looking everywhere but at him. "How did this happen?" His voice was quiet, which made it worse. "They knew exactly when the shipment arrived," Tony said grimly. "Knew which containers to hit." Someone talked. Salvatore's jaw clenched. Betrayal. The poison that killed empires from the inside. "Find the leak," he ordered. "I don't care how long it takes." But finding traitors wasn't the only problem. Word spread fast in the underworld. Salvatore Russo was vulnerable. His mistress had tried to kill him. His businesses were burning. His enemies smelled blood. By Wednesday, 2 of his restaurants reported protection money demands from rival families. By Thursday, 3 of his suppliers canceled contracts, too scared to be associated with a falling king.
Salvatore barely slept, barely ate.
He moved from meeting to meeting, putting out fires, making threats, calling in favors. But for every problem he solved, 2 more appeared. Elena watched him unravel from a distance. He came home late, left early, spoke in clipped sentences. The man who'd kissed her in the gazebo was disappearing behind the armor he wore to survive. On Friday night, she found him in his office at 2 a.m., surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups. "You need to sleep," she said softly from the doorway. "I need to stop my empire from collapsing." He didn't look up. Elena walked in and closed the door. "Talk to me. Tell me what's happening." "What's happening is that showing weakness in my world is a death sentence." He finally looked at her, and she saw exhaustion and something else. Doubt. "I've spent 20 years building this. 1 poisoned dessert and 3 days of distraction, and it's all falling apart." 3 days of distraction? Elena's voice was quiet. "Is that what I am?"
Salvatore stood abruptly.
"I didn't mean it like that." "Then what did you mean?" "I mean that Maria's family is exploiting every second I spend thinking about you instead of business. I mean that my enemies think I'm soft because I'm protecting a waitress instead of—" He stopped, realizing too late what he'd said. The words hung between them like smoke. "Instead of what?" Elena's voice was cold now. "Instead of throwing me to the wolves? Instead of letting them kill me so you can focus on your precious empire?" "No, you're right. I'm a distraction. A liability." She turned toward the door. "I should never have told you how I felt. I should have just stayed the nobody who saved your life and disappeared." Salvatore grabbed her arm gently. "Don't. Please." "Why not?" "You clearly wish I would." "Because you're the only real thing in my life." The words exploded from him. "Everything else is business and blood and lies. You're the only person who looks at me and sees something worth saving. And yes, that terrifies me. Yes, it makes me vulnerable. But I'd rather lose everything than lose you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Then why does it feel like you're pushing me away? Because I don't know how to do this, he admitted. I don't know how to be the man you need and the man my empire needs. Maria was easy. I could keep her separate, compartmentalized. But you? You're in my head every second. I'm making decisions based on what keeps you safe instead of what's smart. That's dangerous. So what do we do? Before he could answer, Tony burst through the door, phone in hand. Boss, we found the leak. Salvatore's expression hardened instantly. Who? Vincent. Your accountant. He's been feeding information to the Moretti family for 3 weeks. Ever since Maria got arrested. Elena watched Salvatore transform. The vulnerable man vanished, replaced by the cold mafia boss who'd built an empire on fear. Where is he? Warehouse on 5th. Marco's holding him. Salvatore grabbed his jacket. I'm going. Salvatore, wait. Elena started. Not now, he was already walking away. Elena followed him down the stairs. What are you going to do to him? What I have to. You mean kill him? Salvatore stopped at the front door, his back to her. This is my world, Elena. This is what I do. If you can't handle that, I'm coming with you. He turned, shocked. Absolutely not. You said I'm part of your world now. That means I see all of it. Not just the romantic moments in the garden. The real parts too. Elena, you don't understand what you're asking. I'm asking to see who you really are. All of you, she grabbed her coat. You wanted someone who sees you? Then let me see you. Salvatore stared at her for a long moment. Then, against every instinct, he nodded. The drive to the warehouse was silent. Elena sat in the back seat, her hands clasped tight, wondering what she'd just demanded to witness. The warehouse was dark and cold. Vincent knelt in the center, hands tied, face bloodied. Marco and 2 other men stood guard. Elena's stomach turned, but she didn't look away. Why? Salvatore asked Vincent simply. They offered me triple what you pay, Vincent said through broken teeth. Said I'd be protected. Said you were finished anyway. And now I know they lied. Salvatore pulled out his gun. Elena's heart hammered, but she forced herself to stay still, to watch. Salvatore, she said quietly. He looked at her, the gun heavy in his hand. Show him mercy, Elena said. Not because he deserves it. Because you're better than this. Because the man I love doesn't have to kill everyone who betrays him. If I let him live, I look weak. If you kill him, you prove them right, that you're just another monster. She stepped closer. But if you let him live, if you exile him with nothing, you prove you're strong enough to show mercy. That's real power. The warehouse was silent except for Vincent's ragged breathing. Salvatore lowered the gun. You have 24 hours to disappear, he told Vincent. If I ever see you again, mercy ends. Understand? Vincent nodded frantically. Cut him loose, Salvatore ordered Marco. Take him to the city limits and dump him. As they dragged Vincent away, Salvatore turned to Elena. You shouldn't have seen this. But I did. And I'm still here. He pulled her close, his forehead against hers. You make me weak and strong at the same time. I don't know how that's possible. That's what love does, Elena whispered. But outside the warehouse, in cars parked in the shadows, Maria's cousins watched and waited. They'd seen the boss hesitate, seen him show mercy. And they knew exactly how to exploit it. The invitation arrived on Saturday morning, delivered by a boy who disappeared before the guards could question him. Salvatore read it once, then burned it in the fireplace. What did it say? Elena asked. Maria's family wants to meet. Tonight. They're calling it a peace negotiation. He watched the paper curl and blacken. It's a trap. Then don't go. If I don't go, they'll see it as cowardice. The attacks will continue until there's nothing left. He turned to face her. But I can end this tonight. One way or another. Elena felt ice in her stomach. By killing them. By showing them I'm still the man they should fear. Where's the meeting? The old Castellano estate. Neutral ground, he paused. They want you there too.
What? Why?
Because they know you matter to me. They want to see if I'll bring you into danger, or if I'll leave you behind and look weak. His jaw tightened. It's a test. Then I'm coming.
Anna.
We've had this argument. I'm part of your world now, remember? She took his hands. Besides, if it's a trap, you'll need all the allies you can get. You're not a soldier.
No.
But I'm the woman who saved your life once. Maybe I can do it again. The Castellano estate was a mansion that had seen better days. Crumbling stone, overgrown gardens, windows like dead eyes. Cars lined the circular driveway, expensive vehicles belonging to people who dealt in death. Salvatore arrived with Elena, Tony, and Marco. For people walking into a house full of enemies. Inside, the grand ballroom had been transformed. Tables laden with food and wine, as if this were a celebration. 30 men in expensive suits, armed and watching. At the center of it all sat 3 people, Maria's cousins, the heads of the Moretti family. Dante, the eldest, stood when Salvatore entered. Mr. Russo, thank you for accepting our invitation. Let's skip the pleasantries, Salvatore said coldly. What do you want? To discuss terms. You've made mistakes recently. Shown weakness. We think it's time for new leadership in this city. And you think you're that leadership. We think you're distracted. Dante's eyes slid to Elena. By unsuitable attachments. Salvatore's hand moved to Elena's back, protective. Careful what you say next. Or what? You'll show us mercy? Like you did with Vincent. Dante laughed. We saw what happened at the warehouse. The great Salvatore Russo, letting a traitor walk because his little girlfriend asked nicely. Your father would be ashamed. The room tensed. Everyone knew you didn't mention Salvatore's father, unless you wanted blood. My father taught me that power without control is just chaos, Salvatore said quietly. He also taught me to recognize when someone's trying to provoke me into a mistake. No provocation necessary. We have proof you're weak, Dante snapped his fingers. Men dragged in a figure, bound and gagged. When they removed the hood, Elena gasped.
Roberto.
Her brother. We picked him up this morning from the docks, Dante said casually. Thought we'd invite him to the party. After all, this all started because you saved his pathetic life 2 years ago. If you'd let him die, none of this would have happened. Elena lurched forward, but Salvatore held her back. Let him go. He's not part of this. Everything is part of this. Your mercy. Your weakness. Your love. Dante pulled out a gun and pointed it at Roberto's head. So here's the deal. Walk away. Leave the city. Give us your territory, your businesses, everything. In exchange, we let the boy and the girl live. And if I refuse, then they die. Right here.
Right now.
And you get to watch. The room was utterly silent. Elena looked at Salvatore, saw him calculating, weighing. Everything he'd built against 2 lives. Power against love. There's a third option, Salvatore said calmly. What's that? I prove to everyone here that mercy doesn't mean weakness. It means I choose who lives and who dies, he smiled. Cold and terrible. Tony now. Suddenly, the lights went out. Gunfire erupted in the darkness. Muzzle flashes like lightning. Men screamed. Glass shattered. When the lights flickered back on, the balance had shifted. Salvatore's men, hidden among the waiters, the guards, the drivers, now held guns on Maria's family. You thought I'd walk into a trap unprepared? Salvatore's voice cut through the chaos. I've been playing this game since before you were born. Dante stared in disbelief. You. I let you think I was weak. Let you see the mercy at the warehouse. Let you believe love made me vulnerable. Salvatore walked forward slowly. But every move was calculated. Every apparent weakness was bait. And you swallowed it whole. Marco cut Roberto free. The young man stumbled to Elena, who held him tight, both of them shaking. Salvatore stood before Dante, gun in hand. You hurt my businesses. Threaten my people.
Kidnappet an innocent man.
All because you thought I was too soft to retaliate. Wait, we can negotiate.
No.
We're past that. Salvatore's voice was ice. But I'll give you something your cousin Maria never gave me. A choice.
Kneel.
Swear loyalty. Give up your claim to my territory.
Or die.
Right here. Right now. Dante's face twisted with rage and humiliation. His brothers looked at him, waiting. Finally, slowly, Dante knelt. I swear, he said through gritted teeth. Louder. I swear loyalty to Salvatore Russo. We surrender our claims. We accept your authority. One by one, the other Moretti men knelt. Salvatore looked around the room. Let this be known. I showed mercy because I could, because I chose to. Not because I'm weak, but because I'm strong enough not to need blood every time someone challenges me. He paused. But challenge me again, threaten what's mine again, and mercy ends. Permanently. He turned to Elena and Roberto. Let's go home. Outside, in the car, Elena finally broke down. She cried for her brother, for the violence, for everything that had led to this moment. Salvatore held her while she shook. I'm sorry you had to see that. You planned all of it, she whispered. The mercy with Vincent. Making them think you were weak. It was all strategy. Not all of it. He lifted her face to look at him. The mercy was real. You changed me. But I also know my world well enough to use that change as a weapon. He kissed her forehead. That's who I am, Elena. The man you love and the monster they fear. Both at once. I know, she said. And I'm still here. Roberto spoke from the front seat, his voice shaky. Thank you for saving me again. Thank your sister, Salvatore said. If she hadn't saved me first, I wouldn't have been alive to save you. The city lights blurred past as they drove toward the villa. The war was over. Salvatore had won. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. The battle between the man he was and the man she needed him to become. A week passed. The city returned to normal, or what passed for normal in Salvatore's world. Businesses reopened. Rivals backed down. The Moretti family paid their tribute quietly, their heads still bowed. Salvatore had won. His empire was stronger than ever, fortified by the display of strategic brilliance and controlled mercy. People spoke his name with even more fear and respect than before. But victory tasted like ash in his mouth. Elena stayed at the villa, but something had changed. She smiled less, spent hours staring out windows. At night, she lay beside him, close but distant, like she was working through calculations he couldn't see. On the 8th day, Salvatore found her in the garden at sunset, sitting by the fountain where they'd first kissed. You're leaving, he said. Not a question. Elena looked up, surprised he knew. How did you? I've been watching you watch the exits. Measuring distances. Planning. He sat beside her. It's what I would do. I'm not leaving because I don't love you, she said softly. I'm leaving because I do. That doesn't make sense, doesn't it? She turned to face him. Salvatore, that night at the estate, I watched you orchestrate everything perfectly. Saw how your mind works, how you're always 3 steps ahead. And I realized something terrible. What? I can't tell when you're being real with me, or when I'm part of the strategy. Her voice cracked. The mercy with Vincent, was that really me changing you? Or did you let him go because you already knew it would make you look stronger? The confession in the gazebo, did you mean those words? Or did you say them because you knew I needed to hear them? Salvatore felt something break inside his chest. You think I manipulated you? I think you're so good at surviving that you don't even know when you're being genuine anymore. Tears rolled down her cheeks. And that terrifies me. Because I gave you everything. My truth, my heart, my secrets. And I'll never know if you gave me the same or just a version of yourself calculated to keep me loyal. Elena, everything I said to you is real. Was it? Can you even be sure? She stood, pacing. You've spent 20 years wearing masks, playing roles, becoming whoever you need to be to win. How do you take off a mask you've worn so long you've forgotten what's underneath? Salvatore stood too, grabbing her hands. I know what I feel for you is real.
Do you?
Or is it just useful? Her voice was anguished. I make you look human. Give you a redemption story. The Mafia boss saved by love. What a perfect image to rehabilitate your reputation with. Stop. Please stop, his voice broke. You're killing me worse than any poison. Then tell me the truth, Salvatore. All of it. No strategy. No calculations. Just truth. She looked into his eyes. At the gazebo, when I confessed everything, did you already know? Had you investigated me? Learned about Roberto? Figured out why I was really there? The silence stretched between them. Finally, quietly, yes. Elena pulled her hands away like he'd burned her. I knew 3 days after you started at the restaurant, he continued, the words tumbling out. I investigate everyone who gets close. Found out about Roberto, about why you applied, about how you watched me. He took a shaky breath. And at first, yes, I thought about how to use it. How your devotion could be valuable. God, Elena wrapped her arms around herself. But then something happened. The more I watched you watching me, the more I realized you saw something in me I'd forgotten existed. Something good. Something worth saving. He stepped closer. By the time you shouted in that restaurant, by the time you risked everything to save me, I wasn't calculating anymore. I was just grateful. And terrified. Because for the first time in 20 years, I wanted someone to see the real me. Not the boss. Not the strategist.
Just
me. How do I believe that? Elena whispered. How do I trust that this isn't just another move in your game? You can't, his voice was raw. That's the poison, Elena. Not the aconitine in the dessert.
this. Us.
Love in a world built on lies and power. He touched her face gently. I can't prove I'm being real. I can't show you my heart under a microscope. All I can do is tell you that you scare me more than any rival, any war, any threat to my empire. Because you make me want to be the man you see instead of the man I've had to be. Elena closed her eyes, tears streaming down. That's not enough. I know. I need time. Away from here. Away from you. To figure out what's real, what I feel versus what I've convinced myself to feel. Salvatore nodded, even though it felt like dying. Where will you go? My brother got a job offer in Boston. I'll stay with him for a while. She opened her eyes. If what you feel is real, it'll still be real in 6 months.
In a year.
And if it's not, then you'll be free of me. She started to walk away, then stopped. That night in the restaurant, when you first said thank you, that moment was real, wasn't it? Before you knew anything about me, before strategy, before everything. Salvatore thought back to that moment. The shock, the gratitude, the strange warmth he'd felt toward a girl he didn't know. Yes, he said. That was real. Then maybe there's hope for you after all, she smiled sadly. Goodbye, Salvatore. Not goodbye, he said. Just, see you later. Elena walked through the garden toward the villa, toward a car that would take her away from this beautiful, terrible world. Salvatore stood alone by the fountain, watching her go, feeling more exposed than he'd ever felt with a gun to his head. 6 months later, a letter arrived at the villa. Salvatore's hands shook as he opened it. Dear Salvatore, I'm ready to talk. If you are too, come to Boston. Come as yourself, not the boss, not the strategist. Just the man who once gave a stupid kid a second chance. The man I fell in love with. Elena. Salvatore held the letter to his chest, closed his eyes, and smiled. The war for his empire was over. But the war for his soul, the one that truly mattered, was just beginning. And for the first time in 20 years, Salvatore Russo wanted to win not through strategy or fear, but through something far more dangerous.
Truth.
Because Elena was right about one thing. Love was poison. It infected everything, broke down walls, destroyed carefully constructed defenses. But maybe, just maybe, it was also the antidote he'd been searching for all along. He picked up his phone and booked a flight to Boston. Some gambles were worth taking. Some risks were worth the fall. And some women were worth becoming a better man for. Don't ever forget that, he whispered to the empty room, echoing her words from that night in the restaurant. Then Salvatore Russo, the man who'd built an empire on calculated moves and strategic brilliance, did the most dangerous thing he'd ever done. He chose love over power and walked into the unknown,